What's going on, y'all, and welcome back to another Epic 7 video. In this guide, let's discuss all the hunts as well as, more importantly, the gear sets that drop from them. There's been so many buffs, revamps, maybe newer hunts if you're a returning player or a brand new player. We got to talk about everything here related. I'm going to go over every item set depending on where I rank them in terms of how good they are, especially for new players, but also talking about mid, late game players. Also play styles, where you need them, PvP, PvE, what kind of type of player you are for PvP, standard, tanky, aggressive, cleave. I'm going to go over all of that in a quick lightning round scenario so you guys have an idea where to start as a new player, mid game, late game, if you're returning, etc. If you haven't been caught up to all the buffs, changes, new hunts, all that good stuff, okay? So we got a lot to talk about, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and let's get into it. Two things real quick before we start, guys. If you can, if the guide helps you at all, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're trying to get those sub numbers up. It would mean a lot to me. Second, I want to talk to you guys real quick about the Amazon Appstore and Amazon Coins. Boys, Epic 7 is a free-to-play, friendly game, but if you were going to spend, if you have the means, you want to just get a little bit more, maybe help support the game as well, you got to be using Amazon Coins. There's no drawback. You can save up to 20% off with Amazon Coins on all in-game purchases for Epic 7 and a lot of other games. But let me take you through the steps. It's so easy, no strings attached. Start saving in 3 easy steps. You purchase those coins for the discounted rates like I mentioned. Get the Epic 7 app on your Android phone or tablet from Amazon Appstore. Download that bad boy, and then open the app, log into your account, and you're ready to start saving. Like I said, no drawbacks. You got to do it if you're going to be spending. You want to save that money. Let's do it together. All right. Thank you for listening to that, and let's get back into the video. All right, y'all, let's take it from the top and start with the Wyvern hunt. And I'm going to lead off with the speed set because I think that's, this is the primary factor, the primary selling point of Wyvern set. Speed set has long been the king of the game. Things have been shaken up a bit. Some sets have even overtaken speed set for specific areas. We'll get into that later, but in general, it's still the most amazing set for this game, guys. Don't think that speed set is only for players or units that want to go giga fast, mega speed. Every unit in the game that wants this, except for a few examples such as like Zero Speed, Seaside Bologna, Martial Artist Ken, Counter Kayron, and those are like more PvP niche examples for later on. For new players, guys, speed set is amazing. Every unit needs to take a turn in a turn-based game with combat readiness, right? It's so important. Don't think it's just for fast units. Still amazing. And then for the people that do want to go giga fast, right, you need to have this for your cleavers, for your speed openers, contesters. A lot of units want this now. Still amazing. New players will use it. Endgame players will use it. Get to learn to love it. You have to play some kind of speed. Even myself as a slow player, I gotta have some speed set and speed gear. Now, crit set and hit set have been taken down a peg, I think, a little bit, with just because the more introduction of two-piece sets such as Torrent, such as Penetration set, that provide bonuses that you can't get through gearing. So, for example, crit set is still great for PvE and some PvP examples, but units that don't need crit aren't going to want this, as well as the fact that I mentioned you can get crit set on gear, especially through like the massive amount on a necklace. As your gear gets better and better, you're going to want to forgo the crit set and get more specialized two-piece sets like the Immunity, Penetration set, etc., things like that. Now, the hit set is still good. Same thing with crit set, though. There's a competition for two-piece set is fierce, but for PvP, there are some units that still want it if you need that extra, effectiveness. And then for PvE, obviously, effectiveness is still amazing. So definitely a good hunt. No real dead sets, but it has been taken down a peg. Still the most, probably the best set to start with, and you're just always going to need something here. Moving right along, we have the Golem set, guys. Now, Golem compared to Wyvern, especially before like protection set, before the buffs, the attack, health, and defense set, this was long seen as, a set definitely not worth farming for at all. Things have changed a bit, though. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So starting with attack set is really just the set you want to use as a newer player. There are some late game examples for PvP units that want this. I believe like Pavel and Commander Pavel, for example, want attack set, but those are kind of niche, and those are really for end game PvP players. In general, you're going to get more value out of using sets like speed set, as attack set is a little bit more specific in terms of what units want it. Not all units want attack set. A lot of bruisers don't need attack, they'll scale off health, and in general, speed set or like destruction set can provide a lot more value to the specific unit. Health set and defense set, we'll talk about these two together. In general, guys, for PvE, you don't really want to be using these sets, as one, you have to farm Golem, which is not the most, valuable in terms of versatility. And on top of that, there's just two, like I said, the two-piece set is so competitive right now, and I think the other options are a little bit more enticing, especially for new players. Now, late game, this does have potential. I know there are players that really prefer the health and defense set. This is for the very, very late game, and a lot of times, maybe the more, I would say, like a whale-style player really wants to squeeze out the maximum amount of stats for those units that need those health or defense stats. In general, guys, you can kind of avoid this, and it might be a lot easier to just run pen set, immunity, 2-piece set, any other 2-piece set that you think you can use instead of those two, because farming golem is a little bit of a luxury, I would say. Protection set, the last set to be added. This thing is still pretty niche. I don't think it's been tested a ton because a lot of times you have to farm golem, like I keep mentioning, and it's just not valuable overall, but it can be very good, especially against, you know, aggressive and PvP, excuse me, for fighting against aggressive style comps, cleave comps. Slapping that on a tank, a soul weaver, a unit that doesn't need a different type of 4-piece set can provide that extra defensive capabilities that might let you survive that initial onslaught. Overall, though, guys, avoid golem, in my opinion. It's like the polar opposite of wyvern, where wyvern is always good no matter where you're in the game. Golem is very, very niche for specific units, and a lot of times you're better off farming another hunt. Do whatever you want, but that's my personal opinion. I think a lot of people share it. Just wait to farm this until you know what you want for those niche examples. The third hunt we're going to talk about, guys, is the Banshee hunt. One of my favorites as a more standard tank down player. Let's go and break it down. I think this is probably one of the most interesting alongside Katie's. But let's focus on the Banshee right now. We have the Resist, Destruction, Lifesteal, and Counter set. Let's take it from the top. Resist set, a 2-piece set, very competitive field, but Resist set is still amazing for both PvP and PvE scenarios where you just need that extra stat boost, like I mentioned with the defense and health. I think this one's a lot more usable, though, because the rest of the sets are great. Banshee overall is a very good hunt still. It has been kind of shaking up things, both in terms of gaining popularity and losing popularity, and I'm going to talk about that here in a second. So in terms of gaining popularity, Destruction set got a massive buff, and this is one of the sets that overtook speed in some examples. So speed set, the most versatile, usually one of the best sets, especially for units that want speed. But in terms of units that want, let's say bruiser units that are in kind of that mid-range speed field, Destruction set, as long as they use crit damage, right? It's a destruction, it does critical damage. As long as your units can do crit damage, this is the king for bruisers. So you're going to want to farm Banshee if you want to min-max those bruiser units. And in general, it's just amazing damage right now. So Destruction set definitely very, very strong in terms of just like gear score. And just quick note, guys, if I mention the word gear score, don't take too much stock into it. That's more of a late game player kind of terminology, but it's just the culmination of the value stats for all the stats on a piece of gear. Next up, guys, we have the Lifesteal set. This one, I won't say it's like super niche. It maybe has some PvE applications, but in general, it's a PvP set that we're going to use on a lot of bruisers. I like to use this on units like Milim, maybe Sage Vivian. What else, guys? Units like Remnant Violet, Green Violet. Think of units like that kind of either want that extra survivability through the life gain. Some people even run this on units like Spectre Tenebria. It can be used on a lot of different units. It just depends on your style. Usually it's for the more tanky players that are going to take some hits and want to gain that life back just to keep going, right? But overall, I think it's still a definitely good set. Just be aware that it's not for everybody. A lot of times you'll be better off just running speed set, trying to, you know, take the initiative or just get more turns that way. And Lifesteal set, Destruction set, Counter set, Resist set all need, well, I shouldn't say Resist set, but the Banshee in general, guys, needs a lot higher gear quality, like I mentioned, gear score, compared to a set like Speed, just because a lot of times for Lifesteal and Counter, you don't get the raw stats, right? You get an additional bonus, life gain, or countering, but unlike the Speed set, the Destruction set, you don't get that raw stat value, okay? So you'll have to have higher quality gear in general. Counter set, last but not least. So just like Destruction set made Banshee more viable, Counter set is a little bit on the downswing right now because of the introduction of Astromancer Elena. Her new buffs make her absolutely insane, super easy to use for almost anybody, and it kind of just negates this entire set, so it's a feel-bad moment. This is the first set I think that gets entirely negated by a unit, so just be aware of that. But in general, guys, if you do like the idea of countering, it's still a very powerful and viable playstyle. Just be aware it's not in its best spot at the moment, but mostly a PvP set. Still definitely has some PvE applications. It's never bad there. If you slap it on a unit in the front row, they'll do a lot of countering. Can be good. But overall, guys, Banshee's still very viable. It's going up and down. I think Wyvern is still more universal, more safe, but Banshee is still a great main hunt, I should say, if you just want to get a wide variety of gear. The fourth set on our list is the Azamanak hunt. Let's break it down. Unity, Immunity, and the Rage set. Unity set just recently got a buff, but it's definitely a more niche example or a set that has both potential in PvE and PvP now. As dual attack chances got lowered, Unity set increases that chance by quite a bit. It's definitely more lucrative, more viable than it used to be. But in general, a lot of times, especially if you don't want to play that RNG, that chance game, you may want to go for a different style set. A lot of times, you know, just running penetration set, maybe even now the new torrent set could be just a straight up damage alternative. But there are some units that really want this. Having this on like a Spectre Tenebria can just straight up be so oppressive. Some units can make more value out of it. Some units can activate it more often depending on the teams you run it with. But in general, guys, it's more of a late game kind of flex style set. So don't pick it up in the very beginning. You're going to be better off with different style sets. Immunity set is interesting, as this set used to be very, very strong for PvP. It's almost usually just a PvP set. If there's any PvE applications, let me know, guys. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but maybe for some difficult scenarios. It's the fact that it's only one turn, though. Usually in a long PvE fight doesn't make it worth it. But for PvP, it is still very good. Used to be the best set in terms of the two-piece for some PvP scenarios, but right now, with the introduction of a lot of units that reduce buff durations by one turn, which completely negates this, so many units now can both full strip, sometimes even ignore effect resist, alongside that. And then you have units that straight up punish immunity set, like units like Rimuru. If you have that, will proc him, will activate like his skill too. It's just kind of, immunity set has been taking a beating by a lot of different sets. It's still very good, especially on units like counter Kayron, or Kayron in general still wants this, but I think its value has gone down quite a bit. I still use it myself as a more tanky standard player in some PvP scenarios. Just understand, guys, its value has gone down quite a bit. So make sure you know what you're getting into before you farm Azamenak just for immunity. Last up, guys, we have Rage Set, and this is the moneymaker for Azamenak. Rage Set is going to be amazing, and it's probably something you want to pick up as a newer player sooner than later. It's going to enable you to defeat a lot of the PvE content much quicker, especially areas that, you know, have great rewards. Abyss, expeditions, raids. It's gonna how you're gonna do your one shot for your hunts as well. Range set is amazing. Try to get that sooner than later. Start to get, you know, a PvE set for that, as it's gonna be the king of damage for every PvE setting. Last but not least on our hunt list, guys, we have the Katie's Hunt, and it's super complex, the newest hunt to be added. So let's break it down. We have the Revenge, Injury, Penetration, and Torrent set. Let's take it from the top. The Revenge set, think of it like an inverse speed set, guys. It's gonna be your late game sort of set. New players try to avoid this, as unlike speed set, you don't get the value straight out of the box. For a speed set, it goes straight on your stat sheet. Super simple to use. You know what you're getting. Revenge set, the more damage you take, to keep things simple, the more speed scaling you'll get exponentially. So it takes a little bit more of a technical know-how. Definitely a late game player set. Don't go for this until you know what you're doing. You'll be better off with speed set in 95% of scenarios. Injury set, definitely a PvP focused set, as I think it's almost never usable in PvE. They're all immune to it. But injury set is amazing right now. Still a little bit niche depending on what your playstyle is. If you're more aggressive, more cleave oriented, especially cleavers, you may not need this. But for anyone standard, if you need to fight those tanky units, you need to injure them down. Fighting like knights like Eula, fighting things like Apocalypse Ravi, who is a troublesome unit for a lot of newer players. Injury set can be amazing, especially combined on units like Alencia, like Bellion for her AoE. Just take note of it, guys. Strong in both RTA, Guild Wars, and Arena, but more niche. So don't go for this until you have the rest of your kind of gear set established. Penetration set. Now this one is probably one of the most valuable two-piece sets after its release. It got buffed to be absolutely insane. Just make sure your unit can use the pen set. Not all damage units want this. For example, if you already have penetration built into your set, you may not need this compared to a different two-piece set. That being said, there's still a lot of units like Remnant Violet that have some pen set, but maybe it's only on one of their skills. Maybe it's not, you know, they'll still get value out of adding more pen set. So just take note, guys, that this is super valuable. A lot of times your crafting events, try to get it from free gear, like from Arena, as for both PvE and PvP, especially for my aggressive style players. This is super good, very, very nice, a super strong two-piece set that overtakes sets like Crit set, for example. Torrent set, last but not least, guys, and I'm gonna be honest, I haven't used this. It's super brand new, like barrier set, and it's not my style. The trade-off is too much for me personally. I'm more of a tanky player, but I know for damage dealers out there, the people that love doing damage, it can be absolutely amazing. I think it has some PvE potential as well. Just be careful, I think the trade-off there is even worse depending on the scenario. But yeah, Torrent set is super interesting. I think some players are going to make great use of it. It's still just a little bit new, and I'll still say definitely a late game set, even if it ends up being really good. Okay, so overall, guys, those are the hunt breakdown. Hopefully this helped out a little bit in your gearing and adventure in Epic 7. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.